Okay. So, hey guys, welcome to Business 101. I really hope by the end of today's session, you're all able to get an insight into the business world, you're able to get some knowledge, and you better understand the functions and aspects of business. My name's Adya Agarwal, and I'm going to be one of the hosts today. And Manav will take it on from here.
Hi guys. So let me introduce you to our team for Business 101. Our team today consists of Adya, myself, uh, Kashish, Nikita, Keshav, and Sarah, who is not able to join us today. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some Zoom etiquette. Smith, if you, yeah, thank you. So, as you guys know, we are using Zoom for our presentations, and there are just a few basic rules that we'd like you to follow. We would prefer your mics to be on mute unless you're told to speak. We'd like your videos to be on because it really encourages our presenters to speak. We'd like you to use the raise hand function if you have any questions while the presenters speak, and feel free to put in your questions in the chat box anytime throughout the presentation. Um, and yeah, I guess that's all. Let's begin with today's module.
Okay, thank you guys for
To the
attending
part
today's
now.
session. As you all know, Entrepreneurs Deck is the student-led initiative who aims to deliver crucial business knowledge to young individuals and high school students. Today we have a Business 101 as the topic of the day. And as you know, I'll be announcing the word of the day anytime throughout this presentation. Please do make sure you note it down in order to receive the certificates. And also, if you have any questions, or if you feel you want to ask something to Adya, Manav, me, or anyone else, just feel free to use the chat function to type the question down, and we'll get back to you. Another thing which I'd like to introduce you, which we at ED have introduced to the participants, is the contest, the business plan contest. We have developed a contest wherein you have to answer a few questions in these modules, and then after all the sessions are done, you will be given a specific amount of time to come up with a business plan. And at the end of the contest, there are lucrative prizes, and also other benefits you will receive after this contest is done. More information regarding the contest will be given by Victoria and Vedika in today's module. Yeah, let's go ahead with today's presentation. Thank you for attending.
Okay, so I'm Kash. I'll be starting your presentation for today. So the role of a business basically is to produce and distribute goods and services that satisfy a public need or demand. So as we know, like the society that we live in needs some sort of economy, and businesses are what make up that economic system. So let's start with business to consumer companies, which are the most basic companies that exist. Consumers buy their products or services for their own personal use. And in B2C transactions, consumers select their products and pay for them at the point of sale. So they can use things like credit cards, debit cards, checks, or cash. With B2C e-commerce as well, which is growing more popular with the pandemic, you sell to the consumers on a website, and then they browse their product and information pages, and then select them, and then pay for the delivery before the checkout. One really important thing to remember is that B2C consumers all pay the same price for their products. So some examples of B2C companies could be like Amazon or Netflix, things that we use as consumers every single day. The second type of business that we have is the business to business B2B business, which is a process of selling products or services to other businesses. So in B2B buying, what happens is that the decision-making groups include members from technical businesses, financial, and operational departments, depending on the type of purchase that they make. The person selecting a product may not have authorization to purchase, or may not have responsibility for making the final purchasing decision. As well as there are larger purchases. So clients pay differently based on the amount that they buy. B2B transactions also normally require more complex e-commerce business system, and the system must be capable of accepting these orders in different formats such as emails, documents, electronic orders, more official systems. And they must integrate order capture with the other administrative systems so that the whole business knows about it, using things like invoicing or customer records and accounting. Um, some examples of these include Skype or Zoom, which businesses use to hold their own meetings as well. And another very famous example actually is Kickstarter, that helps other businesses find traction in the market and it is actually a business that helps businesses, making it a business to business model.
Thank you, Kash. Keshav and I will be taking over. For a business to operate efficiently, tasks must be carried out by these functions of the business. And the functions are human resource, marketing, finance, and operations. Human resource. Human resource is used to describe both the people who work for a company or organization and the department responsible for managing resources related to employees. Basically, human resource means all the labor involved in the business. It primarily deals with the workforce planning, recruitment, training, dismissals, appraisals, or even outsourcing human resource strategies. Moving on to marketing. Marketing is concerned with identifying and satisfying customers' need at the right place. Marketing involves researching what customers want and analyzing how the organization can satisfy their wants. This is done through a series of activities such as market research, test marketing, advertising, branding. Moreover, these functions of the marketing department can be summed up as the 4 Ps of marketing, or also known as the marketing mix. The marketing mix includes, next slide please. The marketing mix includes price, product, place, and promotion. Moreover, we move to the finance section. Finance department is a part of the organization that is responsible for acquiring uh, funds for the firm, managing funds within the organization, and planning for expenditure of funds on various assets. The performance and success of any company greatly depends on how well the finance is handled. Keeping a close watch on the finance function is very important for a smooth operation of a company. Next over is the operations. Operations, which is also known as the operations management, is the business function responsible for managing the process of creation of goods and services. It involves planning, organizing, coordinating, and controlling all the resources needed to produce a company's good or a service. Um, how about next slide? How about you guys? Let me know about. Sorry, let's take an example of a restaurant. For a human resource of a restaurant, there is owner, chefs, waiters, and cleaners. And for the finance section, we have income statement, balance sheet, ledger, journal of a restaurant. And for the marketing, how about you guys let me know about the marketing in the comments section. Banners, yeah. It can also include from all the marketing mix, can be product, price, any price strategy, any product strategy, or any promotion strategy. Nice one, online Applex Studio. Yeah. Yeah, moreover, operations include ordering raw materials and delivering the food to the customers. Next one.
Okay, so now we have the steps to starting a business. We will put you guys into breakout rooms where you will receive the link to a Google Doc which has the steps to starting a business listed in a random order. In your teams, please discuss and place these steps in the order that you think are appropriate or you deem best. Make sure that once you open the link, you create a new copy of that document so all of you don't type on the same document. And then once you guys come back, we'll have a few teams share what they think the order is before getting into the topic.
Actually, I've shared the document with all of you. Can you make sure that you work on the document and remember your breakout room number? The document already includes 2-3 breakout room numbers, like breakout room 1, breakout room 2. Make sure you work under your room number, and I'm going to divide you into 3 to 4 groups. You should be receiving the invitation right now.
Automatically fail as there's no apparent need of a product as such.
Yeah, absolutely, Projit. I would agree with you on that. Of course, location really is an important factor, but I would say, I mean, it is really strange that none of you voted for location, but location might not be a factor in some cases. Now, I'll tell you which ones. For instance, if you look at companies like Airbnb, companies, the Indian variant of Airbnb, Oyo Rooms, companies like these, internet-based companies generally do not take location into consideration, especially for their operations. Since they operate remotely, they only need to look at locations in the terms of their target market. But for operations, they are free to work from anywhere they'd like to. But again, when it comes to proper standard brick and mortar businesses, manufacturing and trading businesses, yes, location again always plays a very important role. Okay, can Vaidehi go next, please? Guys, all of you just use the raise your hand function and we'll get to each one of you. Any and everyone that wants to speak, just raise your hand. Use the raise your hand feature and we'll get to each one of you individually. Vaidehi, can you unmute yourself and please tell us what
So
you
I
think
think
about that?
that the market or demand should be the most important, because if there is no demand in the demand, then you're like making something useless. Like it might be useless to some of you, but then there's no demand in the market, then like it is you're not able to use it like.
All right. Again, whether market or demand is a very fair argument, but sometimes more than market or demand, you need to even look at the startup cost. I see 0% of you guys have considered startup cost because starting up a business is extremely expensive in most cases. In the cases that is not, it's generally hard to sustain once you've started. So many startups fail regularly because they either are not able to garner enough funds or get into too much debt too early. So I believe startup cost is a really important factor. You need to make a thorough analysis of all the finances that you might need whenever you start a business, be it any kind of business. For an IT business, startup costs could include licensing fees, um, let's say licensing fees and permission authorities from the government of the country that they're operating in. For let's say manufacturing businesses, again, it could be anything from licensing to assets like buying. If it's a transportation business, it could be trucks. If it's a factory, it could be machines, all of that. So startup cost is something that cannot be ignored at any cost. Okay, do we have someone else? Yeah, Adya would like to add on something. Go ahead, Adya.
Guys, like you mentioned, understanding the demand for your good and service is obviously very, very important for any business. But there's another factor that plays an important role here, which is innovation. A lot of the times in the market, the consumers themselves are not aware of what products they require or the possibilities of certain products. So when you're innovating and you're coming up with a new product or a service that the consumer line on the market has never seen before, it's very unlikely for them to demand it. So in cases of that sort, demand beforehand is a less important factor. Instead, the other factors such as startup cost, expertise, location may play a larger role in a situation of that sort.
Okay. I see, Victor, you had raised your hand before. Would you still like to add on something? Yeah, Victor has his hand raised. Victor, could you please speak?
Yeah. I slightly disagree with that point in the sense that when you're innovating a new idea, yes, there may not be an original market demand, but you're supposed to project before you release it to the market how or what or in what way would this impact the market, in what way would the people want this product, because the product will help them, and that is why you're doing the business in the first place, because you believe that it's something that people want. So the demand in the market is something that will come with the release of the product, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to predetermine or you have to pre-say that there's this product already and it's this. You don't really have to go that way. You just picture
Yeah,
with your product how much would it be needed in the society.
yeah, that is really a good point, Victor. Now, Victor says that I believe you mean that the value that your product brings is supreme when it comes to other factors. It's more important than everything else. And Victor says that the market demand may be something that you realize after you've released the product or after you've started operations. Is that correct, Victor? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
All right. So, okay. Now, Victor mentioned a factor that we had not included in our list, but again, it is a very important point. It depends on the value proposition that you bring to your customers. And yeah, oftentimes, businesses generally, many times, businesses go wrong with the demand that they expect they would receive. And yeah, it is often a failing point for many startups. Great job there, Victor. Okay, so now I'd like to go over to, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, we'd like
Yeah.
to this gap in the market or institutional voids. Over to Keshav now.
Yeah. So guys, what is a market void or a market gap? Market void refers to the goods and services which are required by the customers but are not available in the market. Like if there is a need in the market, but no one is there to satisfy the need. Like for example, due to the COVID situation, there's a huge void created in the market for sanitary products, such as like for say sanitizers, masks, gloves, san- and all those kind of stuff. Yeah. Next up, we have USP. USP is, next slide, please. USP is any aspect of the business, product, or brand that makes it unique from the competitors and which makes it stand out from the competitors, gives it a competitive advantage over the others. USP explains why customer buys the product over the rival ones. Some basic examples of a USP include, next slide, please. Being the first in the business to provide a certain product, known as the first mover advantage. Being the only firm in the local area to supply certain goods or a service, like for say the dairy person or department store in your area, like they have a monopoly in that area. Having a reputation of being the lowest cost provider, example Walmart claims to be always low price, and or Tata Motors like $2,000 Nano, the world's cheapest car. Next up, we have a small task for you guys. Can you all write down the USPs of these businesses in the comments section for Apple, Audi, or Nike? Yeah, that's correct. Siemens integration. Amazing. Nice one, guys. Why do people buy Apple products? Why do people buy Audi? Why do people buy Nike? What makes them unique from its competitors, guys? Yeah.
That's correct, Janice.
Nice one, Janice. Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure Audi's on. Yeah. Nike one too. Should we move on now? Yeah. Now,
Okay, I'll be taking on from here. So, our last topic for today is what are stocks and what are stakeholders. Although we know what are stocks, we have heard about shares a lot, but when we are told to differentiate between these two topics, we often get confused. Well, this is not our fault because these terms have the same meaning, which indicates ownership certificates of a company. Now, one thing that distinguishes them is stock is a more generalized term, as in if I say that I own stocks, that means that I own a part of two or more companies. Whereas if I say that I own shares, I mean that I own part of one company in particular. So now we have, next slide please. We have two types of stocks with this: common stock and preferred stock. Let's take an example of Apple and understand the difference between these two stocks. Firstly, people who have purchased common stock will have greater control as they get to choose who the board of directors will be, which means that they will have voting rights, which will be granted through one vote per share mechanism. Whereas people who own preferred stock in Apples will not have voting rights. So they will not be a part in choosing who the board of directors of Apple will be. Now let me tell you an interesting fact. If you would have invested $50,000 in Apple's common stock in 2006, then your investment would be currently worth around $1.7 million, which is 3,400 percentage of profits. This is like one of the stocks that has most profit value. So common stocks have with regards to demand of the stock. The same way, if the prices fall or the company fails, your common stock can fall up to 0% of profit, and you can go into huge losses if you invest in common stock of a company that fails. Whereas in preferred stocks, we choose to play safe as we receive a fixed amount of dividends. In Apple, for example, the preferred stock is $16.87, where you get a fixed dividend of $2.58. No matter how much profits the company makes in 1 year or the other, your share of profit per share will be the same. Now, the third point of difference between these two stocks is the kind of people that invest into them. If you're a risk taker or a huge business icon, or if you believe that you can invest your money into a company which has potential growth rate in future, then you should go for common stocks. There are companies like Apple, Reliance, Amazon, etc., which have very less chance of failing. So people like to invest in their common stocks, because it is clear that they have a huge potential growth and they are less likely to fail. Now, people who buy preferred stock are generally old age people, non-risk takers, or people with low amount of money to invest in, or less financial capabilities, as these stocks have very less risk. So these people like to invest in preferred stock. Next slide, please. What are stakeholders? stakeholders. In layman language, stakeholder is basically any person who has interest in an organization or whose support is required for an enterprise to be successful. We all, like all of us present in this meeting, are in some or the other way stakeholders of any company because we are the customers who buy the products of these companies. So like the success of the company is based on customers reaction and how they react to a particular product in a market, and if they buy it and if they don't. Now next slide please. There are two types of stakeholders, internal and external. Internal stakeholders have direct interest in the company and need to know about the working of the company and things like how the production will be done, what are the deadlines to finish the work, investors and board of directors, etc. But being a customer of a particular company, we don't need to know how the process, what the process the company is using, or what are the deadlines of the company. That's because we all are external stakeholders. So we are directly affected by the final outcome of the company and not the internal procedures. Now, a company can either positively or negatively affect its external stakeholders. For example, if a company if a company has a chimney that emits a lot of smoke, then the society will be harmed at large. But if it decides to innovate a product that is very useful and solves huge problems, then the society will be benefited at large. Few examples of external stakeholders are government, society, customers, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now we have a few poll questions to test if you understood this topic pretty well or not. In these questions, you will have to tell us whether the person or the organization mentioned is a part of internal or external stakeholders. So let's start the polls. The polls
Before we move to the poll questions, the word of the day for today is contract. So please note it down. I'll just put that same word on the chat so you have a better understanding. Okay, let's go ahead with the first poll question.
Okay, guys, we've received about 50% responses. Nikita?
Yeah. So we have 69% of people who voted internal stakeholders and 31% who voted external stakeholders. The correct answer is internal stakeholders. This is because if you're buying shares of a company, then you need to know most of its processes. You will look into its business plan. You will study its profits from past years, and you will do a detailed research on a company. You will not just directly see the present results of a company or listen to someone else's advice and invest into it. If you're investing your money into a company, then you're one of the internal stakeholders of the company as well. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions or should we move to the next question?
Guys, feel free to unmute yourselves or send in any questions to the chat box. Okay.
Okay, the second question is supplier and distributors are a part of internal stakeholders or external stakeholders? Most of you are correct. 85% have said that they are a part of external stakeholders, which is correct. If someone would like to unmute yourself and tell us why do you feel that they are internal stakeholders? Well, suppliers and distributors are mainly external stakeholders because their work is to just provide us the material that we requested for and distribute the material that we gave to them. They are basically even concerned with the final outcome, which for suppliers is the money that we provide to them. They don't care how and when do we provide our product to the customers and everything, and distributors just need to have their final product so that they can deliver it to the final customers, and it is just that they are not concerned with the processes of the company, and that's why they are external stakeholders. Any questions or should we move on? Okay, let's go to the next question then. Media is a part of internal or external stakeholders? I don't know why the 8% of people have choose internal stakeholders, because media is not really concerned with, again, the internal processes as well. We have seen media promoting certain products or service, but we have not seen the media cover. Company is good enough, they will obviously share the processes which it is using for its success. But then media usually is not concerned with how the company is working or what is going on inside the company. Next question, please. We have 100% correct answers for this one. Product designers are a part of employees that work for our company. So good job, everyone. And we are done with our poll questions.
All right. So now it's time for us to invite our guest speakers today. Our guest speakers for the day are Adya and Nakshatra, who started a venture of their own actually. They were an organizing company with the name Mask Off. Over to you, Adya and Nakshatra. You guys can start explaining your business model right about now.
So, hey guys, my name's Adya,
And I'm Nakshatra.
and today we're here to give you a little bit of insight into our entrepreneurial venture, Mask Off. So, could you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So Mask Off is a startup that we co-founded together in 2018. And what Mask Off basically does is we throw and organize unique theme parties for the young adults of Hyderabad, India. So far, we have two events under our belt. One's the Halloween Masquerade, which we conducted in 2018. Could you go to the next slide, please? These are a couple of images from the event. And the second event that we organized, which was last year, was a foam party. Could you go to the next slide? And these are a couple of images from the second event. So both of these events were extremely successful. We garnered an audience of young adults from all around Hyderabad. We had about 1,000 plus people come to these events. We also attracted various media powerhouses such as the Pioneer, the Times of India, UNI Magazine, etc. So yeah, we really hope through our entrepreneurial journeys, we could give and share some knowledge with you all. So over to you, Manav. We'll answer as you ask.
All right. So we have a few questions for Adya and Nakshatra that will help us cover their business and their operations more deeply. All right. So Adya, what was the USP for Mask Off, and what are your plans for further expansion?
Okay, so as Adya has already mentioned, Mask Off was an event organizing company, and primarily the unique selling proposition of Mask Off was the fact that we organized one of a kind themed parties in the city, which were never explored by other event organizers before. So that also gave us a huge competitive advantage in this particular market and in our target audience. And as you've already seen, the first party was a masquerade party and the second was a foam party. And neither of these were ever taken place for this kind of an audience before, which was very attractive for the crowd that we mainly attracted. And moving on, could you go to the next slide? Yeah, so it was also a non-alcoholic themed party. So especially in Hyderabad, a lot of parents have always been reluctant to sending their kids to events that are taking place at bars or clubs because they have a fear of alcohol being served. So as Mask Off is established and advertised itself as a completely non-alcoholic event, we were successfully able to avoid this along with other legal issues that could be faced, and thus also restoring the faith of parents and letting their children attend Mask Off. Efficient distribution channel in terms of ticket distribution. So what we did was, our main motive since the beginning was to supply every person who wanted to attend the event with a ticket at any possible time and at any location that was convenient to the consumer. So with our team of campus ambassadors and volunteers of Mask Off, we made sure that they covered all sorts of malls, schools in every prime location, and even locations that were not easily accessible. And to make it even more convenient for people, we also introduced online payment option. So I think an efficient ticket distribution channel was also definitely one of what set Mask Off apart from our direct competitors. And in terms of expansion, we want to capitalize on our competitive advantage, as most of the event organizers are adults and they do not particularly relate to their kind of their customer base or their audience. And as Adya and I are both young adults ourselves, we feel like we are our own consumers, and we know what is expected from an event. And a little market research has also shown us that a similar market exists in Pune. And we would also be open to increasing and expanding our outreach to other cities, as well as also be open to being a collaborative event management company in the future. For example, we would be more than happy to organize an 18th birthday party for a teenager, or also be able to co-organize an event, or a theme party in particular with a club or a bar for their particular target audience. So that is how we wish to expand Mask Off.
All right. So, guys, another question is, what is your finance model? And as we know, many startups tend to run into losses. How did you guys make your how did you guys make your business model loss proof, so to speak? How are you guys able to avoid losses? And please detail your financial model.
So could you go to the next slide, please? No, the one after this. The one after this. No, the one after this one. Yeah, sorry for the arrangement of slides. But so speaking of our financing model, we mainly get our funds from sponsorships. So for those of you that don't know what sponsorships come in two forms. One are product sponsorships and one are money sponsorships. In both of these cases, you collaborate with businesses wherein the businesses either offer you money or products and services in return for you marketing or advertising for them. So for Mask Off, we mainly had sponsors, and we also used a lot of our retained profits in order to prolong our business and have a stable financial model. So product sponsors are sponsors that offer you their services or goods, and in return you market for them, whereas money sponsors pay you in cash or in money, and you advertise for them in return for the money that they do give you. So that's mainly what our financing model was. Speaking of how we ensured cost efficiency and made sure that our business didn't go into losses, for any startup, being cost efficient is very, very important. When you are a startup, you're definitely low on cash. There's obviously short-term liquidity problems that you face. So in order to avoid issues of this sort, what we decided to do was cut down on our costs as much as possible. We were successfully able to do this through product sponsors. So in any business, or especially an event management business, printing, photography, a co-working space, and transport are four essential factors, and also very expensive factors. So if we were to pay for all four of these things, we would likely go into losses, or we wouldn't be able to make profit, so we'd only break even. So instead of having to pay for these services, what we decided to do was get product sponsors on board. So Picturecraft was our photography sponsor. They covered our event. And in return, we advertised for them through our social media platforms. iMazzle was our printing partner. So they printed our banners, our posters, our passes, and in return, we used our strong reach to market for them. Offdog was a co-working space that actually allowed us to have meetings in their office every week, so our team could effectively and efficiently collaborate with each other to put up a good event. And Sabu is basically our transport sponsor. So what Sabu did was they provided us with transport to reach and to organize, and in return we effectively advertised for them in amongst our target audience. As Nakshatra may have mentioned before, our target audience was mainly young adults. Nowadays, if you may know, young adults and teenagers are equally involved in the decision of, say, purchasing a car at home, which is why we were able to get Sabu on board, because our target audience was actually very appealing to them, and an audience that they wanted to, attract as well. So that's kind of one way that we cut down on our costs. Another thing that we did was, just give me a second, there's a disturbance. So another thing that we did to cut down on our costs was human resources. So business is not a one-person show, you know. In order to be able to carry out a business or an event, you have to have a team. It's important you have a group of people that work with you and specialize in different aspects of the business. So we obviously knew that we required a team, but as a startup, we also did not have sufficient capital to be able to employ people and pay all of them. So instead, what we decided to do for human resources is get volunteers on board through intrinsic and extrinsic factors. These are some things that we will discuss later on. But so we got volunteers on board. This way, the volunteers were also satisfied because they could build onto their resumes or build onto their satisfaction levels. But at the same time, we didn't have to pay them. So that was a great way for us to get our work done, have a team, whilst also cutting down on our costs. Then another thing that allowed us to cut down on our costs was marketing. For any company, if you want to sell your good or product, marketing is what lays the basis for it. If you're not able to market well, you're not going to be able to sell your good or service. So what we did for marketing is we went ahead and we stuck to social media marketing, which really reduced our cost greatly. We also collaborated with a company called DroneCore. All of these things we will go into detail later.
Oh, all right, Adya. That was indeed a great explanation. Another question that Michael asked and we will be covering is how did you keep your volunteers motivated? Was I audible? How did you guys keep your volunteers motivated at MaskOff?
Okay, so like I mentioned before, in order to keep our volunteers motivated, we used extrinsic and intrinsic factors. So do any of you know what extrinsic factors of motivation are, or what intrinsic factors of motivation are? If you do, then can you unmute yourselves and kind of tell the audience?
Yes, guys, feel free to unmute yourselves or put your answers in the chat box. Projit says team building activities. No, Projit, we are asking about extrinsic and intrinsic forms of motivation. What do you understand by these terms? Just give us your understanding. What do you comprehend? What comes to mind when you think of these two terms?
So okay, so I think I'll just explain what intrinsic and extrinsic factors are. So intrinsic factors of motivations basically involve, doing something because it's personally rewarding to you. So people are motivated by intrinsic factors where they're either getting satisfaction out of something that they're doing. So intrinsic factors arise from inside of an individual. So when they're seeking autonomy, purpose, or satisfaction from something. Extrinsic factors, on the other hand, involve doing something because you're being rewarded for the thing that you're doing. So a typical example of this would be like, being paid, because that's an extrinsic factor. You're being rewarded for what you're doing. Another example would be, say, building onto your resumes. So that's exactly, so we employed both of these factors in our module. What we did was under extrinsic factors, we gave volunteers the, chance to build onto their resumes. A lot of universities nowadays require students to do community service and have community service on their resumes, which is why a lot of people of our age are looking around to garner opportunities of this sort and build onto their resume. So we used this concept to our advantage. And like I might have mentioned before, a proportion of the profits from our business are donated to charity. So because we are donating a portion of our profits to charity, we're obviously collaborating with multiple NGOs. So when you collaborate with NGOs, you can request them to give you letters of appreciation or letters of recommendation. So that's exactly what we did. We got letters of recommendations from the NGOs that we were working with. And that's what the volunteers were given in return of working for us. So that's what kept them motivated. Another thing that we did was we created packages, customized packages, and delivered them to our volunteers to show them how grateful we were of them, and to show them that they were an essential part of our organization, and that whatever they were contributing to, like in our organization, was making a huge difference. That is what was driving the event. We made our volunteers feel a sense of autonomy and purpose. Both of these things come under intrinsic factors, like I mentioned before, and that is actually another thing that got them, motivated and going.
That was very well explained out there. And guys, as we can see, for those of you that were a part of our previous modules, Adya and Nakshatra made extensive use of factors for extrinsic and intrinsic factors of motivation, which we previously covered under personnel management. So now we have a live example of how important it is to keep your staff and employees, how important it is to keep your staff and employees motivated so that they perform at the top of their potential. All right. So Adya, Nakshatra, what were your marketing strategies for Mask Off?
Yeah, so as we already spoke about this, as a new startup, we had to minimize our costs as much as possible. So we mainly stuck to social media marketing as well as campus ambassador and drone core, which I'll go about in a bit. So basically, what campus ambassadors do are they represent a school or a locality or any or something of that sort, and this was helpful for us because they're like people coming from different schools can go back to their schools and advertise for us through word of mouth or like online on social media by simply sharing it to their friends or putting up a story. This greatly increased our reach from the beginning after getting volunteers. And social media marketing, we made use of a lot of digital techniques, like something that could go viral. For example, an internet challenge that will be played later. So what our internet challenge basically was that we wanted everybody who looks at Mask Off to be able to take their own mask off and showcase their hidden talent and tag 3 friends. And we incentivize people to take part in this challenge by setting them a goal. For example, like a winner would be chosen at the end, and they would get a free ticket to Mask Off, as well as could choose 3 friends to be drenched in foam at the day of the event. And so yeah, and another example of a social media marketing technique that we used was in the beginning when we weren't really getting the reach that we expected. We posted a video of introducing the foam party, which was quite exciting, as well as we put up a caption saying tag 3 friends who you would like to go to Mask Off with, and everybody started tagging people, and you can just see how much our insights grew from 2018 to 2019 by just implementing a few marketing strategies here and there. And Drone Code was a company that we collaborated with. And what they do is they fly drones in prime locations or malls in Hyderabad with the flyer of your company. And as we already had a printing sponsor, this was also yeah, these were some of the marketing strategies that we used. And apart from this, place is another very important part of advertising for an event, because if the venue is very trendy or something that would attract a larger crowd, a lot of people would immediately be drawn to that sort of an event. And we chose a club that did not allow people under 21 to enter, as they served alcohol during their usual business hours. And we negotiated a deal with them to let us use the venue from 4 to 8, not their usual business hours, obviously. And this also attracted a very large crowd, like especially the young adults or the teenage population that was our customer base, as they would discover a new venue in the city. And apart from that, the place, we also use the indoor as well as the outdoor space of the venue in under 4 hours, as well as we also hired a lot of teenage talent like DJs and rappers, etc. So a culmination of all these marketing strategies really drew a lot of attention and set us apart from all of our other competitors. Also, could you play the video of the Mask Off challenge? Previous slide.
Yeah, Smith. Let's play the video, please.
Before we play the video, there's just one thing that I'd like to re-establish before you watch the video, so you better understand what we're trying to do with the video. We tried to understand the concept of bandwagon effect with respect to internet challenges, and we tried applying that. So as you might have seen many internet challenges before, such as the ice bucket challenge or the cinnamon challenge, when one person does a particular challenge and they ask others to do it, like say their friends, they follow the bandwagon effect and they also do the challenge. That way the word about the challenge spreads. That's exactly what we tried doing with our marketing strategy. We put out a challenge so the brand name Maskoff goes around social media and people find out about the event and are more likely to come. Yeah, play the video, please.
Why do we keep cutting each other off? Why do we keep cutting each other off? We are now violence. The gap between us widens. The dense silence.
Hey guys, we're here to talk to you about the Maskoff challenge.
So how this works is you take a video of you showcasing your hidden talent and put a video of that on your Instagram story and tag 3 friends. And in case you're chosen and your video is shown on the Maskoff story,
then you get a free ticket to Maskoff and the 3 friends that you tag are drenched in foam.
Yes, see you on the 19th of October.
Wow, that was really a great video. And guys, now we're able to see the power of effective marketing with Maskoff right here. Now, before we delve into questions from the participants, we have one final question, which is what goes into organizing an event at a scale as large as Maskoff was? What are some challenges you might have faced? Please zone in on any challenges, any feedback that you may have received, any great experiences you had, anything new that you learned.
So I think we've already spoken a lot about the challenges we faced or how we went about things, but a few other things that I'd like to talk about are, delegation of work and ensuring people are doing what they're good at doing. So like we mentioned before, we had a group of 40 volunteers. So selecting the volunteers, first of all, was a vigorous process. We didn't just randomly, think of 40 people and choose them. There was a proper procedure that happened. So we put out a Google form with volunteer registrations online, and we got about 120 people to, register, apply for the position to volunteer. And then we carefully assessed each of the applications that we received to shortlist a group of 50 people. Then each of these 50 people had on-call meetings with each of us. And when we recognized that they specialize in particular aspects of business, such as marketing, communication, design, that's when they were chosen as part of our volunteer team. And that's how our team, like our human resources part of the business happened. Then after getting 40 people on board, you can't just tell all of them to do the same task. You're going to have to delegate work. You're going to have to recognize what they're good at, what they specialize in. So we collaborated with our co-working space partner, OffTalk, to have meetings every week. And in these meetings, we were successfully able to divide our volunteers into 5 groups: marketing, event management, design, communication, and just like operations in general. Each of these teams were, successfully able to do their particular tasks. They were contacting multiple companies. They were contacting event management vendors, and that's how the entire event was put together. So for marketing, a part of our marketing group was working towards getting sponsors on board. So how we got sponsors on board was by making a benefactor proposal with multiple packages in it that spoke about the benefits that we would offer to companies if they decided to sponsor us. So here's what our benefactor proposal looked like, and this is everything that goes into a benefactor proposal. So a benefactor proposal would typically consist of an introduction to your business, your outreach, then the various packages that you offer to companies and how you choose to market for them, which is on the next page. So we offered a bronze, silver, and a golden package for our sponsors. And under each of these packages, we cater to our companies in different ways, which we'll show you on the next page. So on the left, you'll see a list of, things that a list of ways that we decided to market through for the companies that decided to sponsor us. And then a benefactor proposal also consists of your product portfolio so far, or the events that you have under your belt so far. And so we have, the last slide mainly consists of images from our events and the newspapers that our event was featured in. So that's typically what a benefactor proposal would look like. So you identify companies that would be willing to, sponsor you because they're looking to target the same audience as what you are targeting. And then you create a benefactor proposal. You have your communications team email them, call them, and constantly communicate with them to get them on board. So that's an essential part of event management. Then that's, apart from division of labor, that's something that we paid a lot of attention to. Then I think it's very important that you have interesting ideas and interesting creative ways of doing multiple things. Like Nakshatra mentioned before, Drone Corps played a very important role in our marketing strategy because we had drones take huge banners of our event all around the city. So there were drones flying in colonies, there were drones flying in malls, there were multiple drones in different parts of the city with posters of the event, which also, really hyped up the word of the event. So I think marketing was a challenge and we faced it pretty well with Drone Corps and digital marketing and the internet challenge.
Thank you so much, Adya. So guys, from what we were able to learn about Mask Off, we learned that Mask Off was successful because of three core principles that they followed. A, they had a great USP, a unique selling point. B, they were very good with their marketing, and C, they made sure to inculcate values of accountability within their let's say within their staff. Like Adya mentioned, they were regularly on call and ensured efficient communication amongst their employees and team members. Do we have anything else you'd like to add? Are there any other takeaways for our participants today, apart from accountability, USP, and a strong marketing strategy? Right, we'll get to questions, Victor. Just 1 minute. Do you have anything to add, Adya, or should we go to questions?
I think the only thing that I'd like to add is that it's essential you realize that there are a lot of people that are doing the same thing as you. So it's always important that you create your own path, you're creative with your ideas and you're innovative, because unless you're creative and innovative, there's no way that you're going to be able to differentiate yourselves, So yeah, adding on to the USP point, but just more in terms of innovation and creativity, I guess.
Okay, so thank you so much, Adya, again. We had Victor raise his hand. Victor, do you have a question?
Yeah, my question is for Mask Off. Just for the business itself, do you have any plans for venturing into the online market?
Online events?
Yeah, online events.
As of now, because we are like a themed event, we didn't really look at like online events as such, but we were thinking about a socially distanced event. Like quite recently it has come up, but I think socially distant would work for us. I don't know if online would work for us.
All right, we had another question from Projit. Projit asks, so are you a social entrepreneur or a for-profit business?
So I think we're a culmination of both. At the end of the day, we're also looking to make profit, but Mask Off started off as a business that was looking to contribute to the society. So Mask Off's always going to generate, like a portion of whatever we generate is always going to be used to kind of make the lives of other people around us better. But at the same time, the rest of the money is also going to be used to reinvest in the business or make profit in general. So it's a culmination of both for sure.
All right. We have another question from Projit. He said, how do you get vendors for these unique demands like foam?
So, like I mentioned before, we had a very good team on board. We had a group of about 10 people that specialized in event management on board. So that really made the process a lot easier for us. But apart from that, I think we did a lot of contact searching. So we spoke to a lot of people that we did know that, could deal in particular sorts of machines or so, and we did a lot of research on the internet, tried to like search for vendors that sell particular kinds of machines, particular kinds of products. And we made once we did all of our research, we made a list of about 20 to 30 companies that would successfully be able to deliver either the good that we're demanding or the service that we're demanding. And then we obviously contacted all 30 of these companies. We had negotiated deals with all 30 of them, and whatever deal was the most feasible for us in terms of quality and price both is what we went ahead with.
And also one more thing, I think like when you're looking for vendors, as you're doing your research, you're also supposed to be really strong with your negotiating skills, because like we never got the offer we wanted the first time we spoke to somebody. Like we had like a couple of meetings and like a lot of negotiating and everything to reach a middle ground. So I think that's what worked for us.
Wow, that's great. Do we have any other questions, you guys? Feel free to unmute yourselves and ask your questions, or put them in the chat box. Do we have any questions at all? Guys, I think we are done. We're done for our guest speakers, I believe. Then, if we have no other questions. Okay, then.
Yeah, if we don't have any other questions, like if you do, feel free to stay back. And thank you Nakshatra and Adya for being here and sharing your experiences with us. I'm sure it was very insightful for all our participants and for me too personally. All the best for your future endeavors. You were saying you were planning a socially distant event. I'm looking forward to it. Please do send photos. As I'm from Surat and I am not able to go to Hyderabad for these beautiful events which you've planned and you have planned. So thank you for sharing whatever you did, and I'm sure all of us learned a lot. If there is one more question from Sanyam. What is your business plan? I think if Adya would like to say something. I mean, business plan includes a lot of elements.
We really did cover it well. Adi, if you would just give him a brief once more about your business plan. I mean, I think we really covered Adi's business plan in depth, but Adi, just go over it once again if you can.
I mean, if you like, everything that we did mention throughout the questions and while we were answering was a part of our business plan, right? Like, what does a business plan include? Coming up with the idea, we discussed our idea with you, we discussed how we got our finances, we discussed marketing, we discussed how we established the business, how we got human resources on board. All of that is a part of your business plan. So I think essentially we did cover everything, but if you have a more specific question in terms of a particular part of the business plan, then we'd be happy to answer.
Yes, Sam, do you have any specific doubts? Or anyone else for that matter? Feel free to put your questions in the chat box, or once again raise your hand to speak.
Okay, if not, I'll be sending a link right now on the chats. Please, fill this form up. It's the form which you will also receive in your email for the post-session feedback form and the questions for this particular module. If you have any other doubts, please, use the chat function or unmute yourselves and let us know. Okay, I think there is one more question for you, Adya and Nakshatra. How did you decide your finance in the plan?
As like we already mentioned, like it was like for charity, and we didn't have any funding in the beginning. So we started off like contacting a lot of potential companies that would like potential companies or startups that would invest, like not invest in us, that would sponsor us in like exchange of marketing to fund us. So like that's how our whole finance thing started. After doing like the first mask off, we had we saved some amount of our profits to be sustainable in the future. So that's what we plan on doing. So like I think mainly like we had to resort to sponsorships because
We can't hear you now, Shatra.
Projit asks, how much did you charge your clients for the tickets?
Okay, so just adding on a little bit to the previous question, we decided on sponsorships because first of all, companies want to fulfill their corporate social responsibility, which is why a charity fundraiser is attractive to them. Second of all, we also did consider investors, and we were in talks with a couple of investors. However, if you're getting an investor on board, you have to give them a huge portion of your profits. You have to give them shares and all of that. And we really didn't have, we weren't generating enough to be able to give most of it away to an investor. So that's why we resorted to sponsorships. And speaking of our prices, initially our per pass price for the second event was 900, which is a pretty feasible price because it's inclusive of food and everything that you would require at the event. So it's a feasible price. But on the day of the event, we changed the price to 1,000. This was actually a great strategy for us because people are more likely to buy something if it's cheaper. So a lot of people bought our tickets when they were like at 900. This really gave us a lot of capital beforehand to be able to pay our suppliers, our venue, and all of that. It really helped us cover our costs.
Thank you so much, Adya and Nakshatra, once again for being here and sharing your insights from your venture. Guys, once again, feel free to ask any questions right now, or do not hesitate to email us at entrepreneursdeck@gmail.com should you have any further questions after this module ends, and we'll make it a point to get back to you as soon as we can. Once again, thank you so much, guys, and feel free to leave the meeting if you do not have any other questions.
Also, our next session would be on 16th of August, which would be economics. I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, are interested in economics and learn more about it. Yes, Projit, we have a contest, a competition, as you said, planned for, Entrepreneurs Deck. We will in the future modules will give you some guidelines and also help you with your ideas. The form to register for that particular contest would be in September. So please be patient while we, develop everything up, and please do attend these sessions to know what exactly is this competition, and the more details about the same is on our Instagram page. These sessions will also help you, form the business plan itself and guide you through what you have to do exactly.